Have you ever wondered why games today suck? Maybe it's because the graphics of modern day games are greater than what your eyesight can handle. Whatever the reason, we're going back in time to see what made games great before teenagers took over the internet. Get in, loser, we're going time hopping. Have you ever wondered why every movie in the early 2000s had to be made into a video game? Call it a cash grab, but I don't carry cash. But back in 2006, I did. Speaking of 2006, that was the year that Eurocom Entertainment Software and Vivendi Games made and published a childhood staple of mine, Ice Age 2: The Meltdown. This game was released on any platform imaginable, except for you, Mac. You can't sit with us. The game was based on the animated movie of the same name, and hence followed the same plot, where in case you lived under an ice block, is where the Ice Age animals discovered that the ice dam was about to break and flood their valley. You mostly play with Scrat, who amidst the chaos goes on his own adventure to retrieve his acorn. In terms of price, the game was originally $50 for PlayStation 2 and Xbox and $30 for PC. That's a lot, especially for a game that only gave you about 4 hours of gameplay. You could have waited a few months, bought the DVD collection, and pretended you were playing the video game for almost half that price. Follow me for more money management tips. No wonder they hid the number of copies sold from us, because they were probably rolling in dough. The critics don't hold back, mostly giving the games mixed reviews, with some praising its colorful visuals and faithful recreation of the movie's plot, while others criticized its repetitive gameplay and lack of originality. That didn't stop Father Hollywood from making a sequel to the game, as a gift to the kids, but unlike Santa, this gift wasn't free. If you love a good celebrity interview, I have good news for you, because a fun fact about this game is that if you collect 1,000 nuts on each level, you will earn a bonus movie that interviews one of the voice actors from the film and game. How fun, and you only paid $50 for it. Before the ice starts melting in the game, let's play before my PS2 short circuits. The game starts off after Scrat fires off the events which will cause the extinction of millions, but on the bright side, it will greatly boost his KD ratio. We end up near Sid, Manny, and Diego, who were having a conversation about going to the water park so that Sid could do some tricks and slide into the ladies' DMs. His friends were being really rude, crushing his dreams really, and I couldn't blame Sid when he bragged about being the only one with the mega schlonnex.
You know, it's pessimism like that that's making your species extinct.
Scrat pays them no attention, as he only has eyes on one nut and one nut only. I must say that I felt really nostalgic whilst running around collecting acorns as a side quest challenge to the main game, as it seems like every good late 90s and early 2000s game had us running around anxiously collecting things. That's probably why I'm a modern day hoarder, but I like to go by the term completionist. The game ends as Scrat finally gets to his acorn, or so I thought, because I should have known that life would never let us win like that. I was surprised at how relatable this cutscene was, as I too make those jumping and screaming noises when I have to wake up in the morning. I then had to swim through a hole deeper than the one in your heart, and it was here where I realized that I won't be able to show you every clinical detail about this game, mostly because it's us running around collecting acorns, which will get boring real quick to watch if you're not the one playing, unless you're a younger sibling, then you're used to it. Scrat finally made it out of the deep hole and ran right into Tweedledee and Tweedledum, who were squaring up to Scrat, not knowing that they were dealing with chatted main character energy.
Hey buddy, stay away from my sister, or you'll have to deal with me.
I won't show you how I eliminated them for threatening me like that, because it was too gruesome for your innocent baby eyes to handle, so I left the crime scene in my nut dust and decided to escape by climbing through Mount Buttcrack. On the other side, I saw the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. It really took me back to the days when times were simpler. I mean, there were no phones in sight, just people living in the moment. Except for Sid, who was a teenage sloth bag living beyond his time. Scrat really took no prisoners in his quest to be one with his nut, which could be a side effect of his early onset rabies. Looking for help, he turned to Diego, who was not a qualified veterinarian, and told us to go away. I don't know if it's the loneliness that's killing me, but this cutscene was full of sexual innuendo.
You're in for it. There's nuts in those caves, but don't be mistaken. Try to collect them, and I'll hear you. There's so many rustling bushes, I doubt you'll be able to sneak around without me hearing you.
As intimidating as Diego tried to be, he was still pretty easy to fool, as it was no challenge for a big-brained squirrel rat like Scrat to collect the nuts by every bush without being detected. I then had to solve a memorizing puzzle to bully this kid, because bullying is fun, and I would encourage everyone to pursue a career in bullying by bullying innocent NPCs in video games or in the actual game Bully. With the kid out of the way, we could go and take out the rest of our pent-up anger on the true gem of this game, which was a mini-game of penguin bowling. This oddly brought back a cursed memory of me playing polar bowling on Windows 7, and then being sad after I used up all of my wild coins, and then factory resetting my mom's computer without her consent, just to reset my coin amount. Don't feel bad for my mom or the penguins though, because after this game, they actually won a movie deal with Sony, which would turn out into the chick flick we all know and love, Surf's Up. The rest of the gang finally made it to the water slide, which Sid was now sliding on to swoon the ladies. My performance was poor as I kept slamming Sid into the obstacles, but hey, at least the boys were impressed.
Wow! Now that was impressive.
Couldn't have done it better myself.
You know, Sid, I think you've proven yourself.
Absolutely. You the man.
Unlike humans, the animals don't believe in the saying it is what it is, and started migrating after they were fully informed that they were going to die. Scrat's one step ahead of them, as he already is in a new area, establishing his dominance over its local yokels. This behavior wouldn't go unpunished though, as I would be the one paying the price for his actions, teaching me a lesson that death is inevitable, and also that in the early 2000s, regular checkpoints did not exist. After recollecting my motivation and crying for a bit, I had to do this chicken's parental duties by chasing down and bringing her chicks back to the nest, just so that I could zip her line. One local tried to stand up to us as we were stripping their habitat of all their food supply for the winter, but we quickly taught him a lesson in the topic of pain and punishment. We then had to go and annoy that kid from the cave again so that we could get the tree to drop some fruit for the sloth man, who kept demanding more so he could crop dust us into oblivion for some nuts. Ellie then tells us that she'll help us back up the tree if we fall down when climbing, and I couldn't help but wonder why she didn't just heat us to the top of the tree so that we wouldn't have to climb in the first place. I appreciate her kindness though, as it was the first time someone hadn't made fun of us or chased us away. In the end, we make it to the top without needing her help because we are a strong, independent squirrel rat who don't need no Ellie. Diego and his friends seem to have caught up with us at this point, and it turns out that Crab and Goyle have respawned just in time to annoy us again.
For shame, Diego. For shame. Are you really gonna let them get away with that?
Sid should put gaslighting on his professional resume because afterwards Diego went full beast mode. This made Sid very happy as he only has murder on his mind, and the proof was in the pudding when he pushed Diego so far that he had eliminated Ellie's whole family. It's up to you if you believe me, but believe me when I tell you that this next mission with Scrat was the hardest mission to complete when I was a kid. My heart was beating 1,000,000 times an hour as all the times I rage cried during this part of the game came flooding back. Maybe it's because my brain is bigger now and I have less to lose because I've already experienced failure. Because this time around, the mission was quite easy. I felt really accomplished after completing that part and even sent a picture to my dad celebrating my accomplishment in the hopes that he would finally love me as much as he loves my sister. He still hasn't replied. After the balena swallowed us, we had a first-class ticket to what the inside of a body looks like. I was telling Scrat that we should just stay here forever, since it was nice, cozy, and rent-free. He refused though, because the foreign bodies of the whale was not welcoming enough, and so we decided to escape by licking the internal eyeballs of the whale. Scrat probably had previous knowledge on whale anatomy, because he had no fear nor no hesitation when climbing through its chocolate booty hole. Scrat then somehow ended up in Shrek's swamp, but Fiona's dad did not mistake our intrusion for kindness and started attacking us. If you felt bad about yourself today, know that it took me 5 tries before realizing that I could press triangle to put the rock into the hole. We then ran into a pigeon who told us that we needed to return all the mixed up eggs to their respective nests.
Return all the eggs to their correct nests, and I'll help you leave. But not until then!
I started with the blue eggs, not because I had a strategy, but because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't think the enemies would hit us when we were with child, but I was wrong, and it turns out that they were no stranger to danger. Luckily, the egg was still okay, and we could easily return it to its correct nest. I handled the rest of the eggs with extreme care because unlike these mama birds who got their eggs mixed up in the first place, I know what the term responsibility means. It turns out that dodo birds aren't extinct, and humanity just exiled them from Earth due to the annoying sounds they make when you come near them. That's embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as the people who played this game as children and now claim that they suffer from arachnophobia. Spiders don't even exist in real life. They're just made up creatures from the movie Eight-Legged Freaks. But if spiders were real and you were hit by one shot of spider juice, would you capture it or let it slip? Nothing really interesting happened in Mudbog, so I was pretty excited to see Sid be sacrificed by those ladies he tried to spam with Sid Pigs earlier. Right off the bat, this area of the game wasn't any better than the Mudbog, because I immediately got attacked when trying to steal Bee's nuts.
The sacred beacon is off limits. I'm sorry.
After that joke, Batman and Robin challenged us to a digging competition. It's not like the world was ending, so we had time to take part in their shenanigans.
You must have cheated. There's your nut.
Those were not the only shenanigans occurring that night, as Scrat had to complete a few other tasks to see Sid be kissed by the Volcano Queen. We had to bring 3 chilies to the only Italian sloth in the game, as well as chase more wayward birds back to their nests and feed a totem pole pulse to turn it on. The villagers then thought it would be funny to set our tail alight and send us up the mountain to start a fire. Scrat dabbles in arson himself and really wanted to fit in with his new friends, so he had no problem with it. After that, it turns out that everyone was serious about sacrificing Sid, and this whole time I thought they were joking, like sloths do. But now it was up to Scrat to save the day with his voluptuous booty power. Because the sacrifice wasn't successful, the sloth gods decided to show their wrath by flooding the valley even faster than before. We find ourselves stuck in a cave with Diego, who turns out to be scared of water, which would explain why he is severely dehydrated. Scrat did what he did best, which was dig nuts out of holes, which emptied the cave. I don't know where all that water went. Maybe it went to the other side of the world, like an earth pumple, but what matters is that afterwards Scrat and Diego rode off into the sunset together. It would have been cool if we could have kept Diego around afterwards, but he had reservations at the local ice bucket and couldn't join us on the rest of our journey. We then had to smash Manny out of an ice block, which freaked him out so much he jammed right into a wall. I don't think he was okay afterwards, and he maybe even died. The rest of the game was pretty short after this, with the only 2 things left to do was to swim to the other side of the cave to collect nuts. I could even finally cross off swimming through a fossil's anus from my bucket list. As we crawled through our final crack, the last cutscene of the entire game played.
The glacier cracked and the water in the valley drained out. Now, we're not sure how this happened, but we're not going to question a good thing.
We're also not going to question it, because that means questioning our accomplishments of finishing Ice Age 2 The Meltdown. That leads me to my other meltdown, the review. Ice Age 2 The Meltdown melted my heart, but did it melt my ideologies of what makes a game good? Well, this game did provide me with a nostalgic attachment, so maybe. Let's see what the numbers say. I won't be focusing on factors such as soundtrack, audio, or graphics because that is for noobs, and these days any game can impress noobs by making a game that looks and sounds great, but generally sucks. Overall, I think it was a good game that really incorporated all the elements required for it to be a great game. I started playing it at 8 AM and I couldn't stop playing because even though the game got quite repetitive and was a bit short, I felt like if it was any longer I would have gotten bored. But the environment, plots, and characters did a solid job at holding my attention. The level designers did a really good job at making each level compact enough to have a good run of gameplay, without making the player feel overwhelmed with too many areas to explore, or too many side plots or side quests happening in a singular area. Each level had a different twist to it, but the core of the game remained the same, which further helped solidify the game's mechanics and controls. What I mean by this is that they stuck to simple mechanics that stayed the same throughout the game loop, which eliminated the problem of overwhelming the player with new controls or techniques that they constantly had to adapt to progress in the game. Another thing that made it good for me was the fact that even though the plot of the game was based on a movie, I mostly played with Scrat throughout the game and hence got a different perspective to what was happening than what we got from the movie. The game itself wasn't that difficult, but that's probably because it was meant for kids. But what mattered was that there were no bugs and the game ran flawlessly. I don't know if it was worth the $50 it originally sold for, but it held up a lot better than some modern games that I've played. I guess it's ultimately up to you. Anyways, let me know if you want me to play the next installment of this game, which is Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. And also let me know how you felt about this game when you played it, or if you would play it in the future. Also, don't forget to let me know what game you want me to play next. And if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's it for me. I'll see you again later sometime and someplace with another video. And until next time, bye.
Ugh, earwax flavour.